That Project Cloud Conversation is a great example of the type of innovation that we're trying to do here at TIBCO. That started off with a very simple conversation around, with all of these different apps, SaaS apps, other apps, how do we reduce the cognitive load on users for having to hunt through thousands potentially of enterprise applications to find the piece of information that they wanted. Secretly, I also wanted it so that when I was driving in my car, I could just ask questions rather than trying to text and type at the same time. I just want to take a bit of a step back here and maybe talk a little bit about the past. For those of you who were in the room a couple of years ago, we talked a lot about the three core building blocks of TIBCO's future: cloud first, ease of use, and industrialization. A big part of that industrialization was obviously the embrace of DevOps and CloudOps as incredibly important pieces in our strategy. But what was the other side of industrialization was building out and really renewing industry partnerships with technology leaders that you all use as well as we. So it's my great pleasure to bring out on stage Dave Mccann, VP of Migration Services, AWS Marketplace, and Service Catalog. Welcome, Dave.
All right. Matt, thank you. Good afternoon. And Matt, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. And really appreciate it. We have an Australian and we have a Scotsman on stage. We just
got to get Murray up now as the Canadian.
We
had Nelson, that works too.
Stage. It's a real privilege to be here. We've been discussing this afternoon innovation. And AWS has been working on innovation for now 12 years. I've had the fortune to be there for 4 years. And really, AWS is contributing to the shift in computing that you're participating in. So I want to talk about how we're helping TIBCO really find ways to provision that software to you in particularly easy and quick ways. So AWS, from 2006 with the first release of S3, Simple Storage Service, through EC2, which is our compute layer, we are now at 125 and counting services. And in fact, in the 4 years since I joined, when I joined, we had 35 services to 125. So 90 services in the last 4 years. And we want to take from you the difficult and undifferentiated work of standing up those resources on which you want to actually spend your intellect to differentiate for your company. And as you build applications, as you analyze data, as you connect applications together, we want to take away some of the low-level plumbing work and stand up the best set of services for you to serve your companies well. And as we do that, we help you innovate faster. We help TIBCO innovate faster as TIBCO runs on AWS, and we help you innovate faster. And we've attracted to our platform thousands of large corporations and small businesses who are innovating at high speed on our API surface as we publish more APIs that you can then call. And of course, you can provision resources incredibly quickly. And instead of waiting 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to provision in server storage and network, you can provision it in a matter of seconds. Now, a number of people in this room, as we'll talk about in a minute, are both AWS customers and TIBCO customers. And what we're finding is that as you use the cloud more, now you want to bring the existing applications with you. And so many institutions have got a migration plan. And as you bring those applications, you have to bring the connections, the data, and not just the application on its own. And while we do that, we also want to reduce your risk. We comply with over 58 different security standards. And we give you a number of services, including AWS Shield, to give you additional ways of protecting your data and your applications on the cloud. Now, when Matt and I were preparing the talk and we were looking at the kind of corporations that we both service, your comment, Matt, was many of these corporations are TIBCO customers in this room today.
That's right. I mean, if you look at the global enterprise customers that AWS has here on this slide, many of you are actually here in the room today and will be here at the event over the next couple of days. And I think that it speaks to the power of the partnership, the value that we can provide jointly to all of you.
So, if you look at some of the logos on this slide, you've got an application portfolio, And that application portfolio may be dev test environments, it could be website engines, it could be your business applications, the critical mission applications of the business, and it could be your data lake and all of the data that runs your business. Companies like Unilever, who have stood up 1,700 websites, companies like Capital One, who are reinventing their consumer experience on top of the AWS platform, and many companies in the healthcare industry who are using our elastic capacity for machine learning and for analytics on patient data. And so as we cause that level of innovation, you're going to be using a number of software tools. So really, you're in a transformation. We're in the most disruptive transformation of the software industry, certainly in the 35 years that I've now been in the software industry, since around about 1982. And I would put it to you that you each own in your own organizations an application portfolio. And that application portfolio, historically in the last 10 to 15 years, has been constructed in server-based architectures, very often monolithic. And there's a lot of data moving between the apps. But now you're in a complete reconstruction of your application portfolio. The choice is immense. Do you go to software as a service? And according to IDC, there are over 5,200 funded SaaS companies. Do you go to containers? Do you go to serverless? We've launched AWS Lambda. We've taken away the whole concept of the server for us to manage. You bring your code. Or do you go down a Docker or a Kubernetes world? Do you use machine images from AWS? Or do you leave some of your servers on-prem in a hybrid manner? So you've got an immense set of choice, and you're going to make the right decisions for your individual business. And you're probably going to take an application portfolio that is part homegrown, depending on your industry, and part software off the shelf. And there's a tremendous opportunity to both rationalize and at the same time to shift over to a subscription model where we also save you money by moving you from in perpetuity licensing to consume as you go. And in that model, TIBCO has popped up regularly in the time I've been at AWS because the model is along the following lines, and we've researched this now with over 300 companies. You have a portfolio where there are 500 or 600 vendors or applications, which what one bank called the long tail. Everybody's using the typical 5 large vendors of a Microsoft, an IBM, and a VMware. But in the middle, there's a set of important architectural choices that you're going to make across security, networking, database, BI, DevOps. And in that 50 important architectural choices, TIBCO comes up in these institutions.
And I think this is I'll make kind of 2 points here. The first is that, you know, what you saw on Dave's slide in terms of the various layers in the cloud and on-premise, this mimics a lot of what we're seeing as well, and it really speaks to the heart of what we call anywhere and everywhere. We want to make sure that the software products that we produce, the components, the technologies, the languages, are available in these places. And the second thing, I think this also speaks to the power of the partnership in kind of 2 ways. One is, as we look at ways to expand and as we look to sell our software, Marketplace ends up being a great place to make it available. But it's also the technical relationship around things like serverless with the work with Flogo that has been fantastic as well. So it's got to be both that business side as well as that technical side coming together.
So where you're headed, in our view, and my job in engineering at AWS, is to stand up a digital library of ready-to-go software and APIs. And in fact, when I first joined AWS 3.5 years ago, we were working together on bringing up the TIBCO JasperSoft product line into Marketplace. Marketplace is a digital library. We tag everything. It has an immutable code. We allow you to provision it and deploy it on a per hour, per month, per year, multi-year contract. We work with different deployment technologies from CloudFormation JSON or an Amazon machine image. And recently, we'll get into what we're doing with SaaS. And we now have over 4,200 different products. And I'm pleased to announce today a new public number where we have 190,000 active customers on a given month subscribing and deploying software out of AWS Marketplace and consuming over 570 million hours of EC2 instances. Now, relative to what we're doing with TIBCO today and some announcements that Matt's about to make, we are doing some of that engineering work that actually allows TIBCO to innovate with you. So last year, as an example, as SaaS vendors and software companies redesign all their implementation of software as SaaS, how do we actually stand up a really flexible API surface that allows the SaaS vendor to package and provide to you in many dimensions? So we stood up last year with Splunk, who were first to launch a contract API. It has time dimension, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, by month, by hour, and it has arbitrary dimensions that TIBCO can choose with us on per instance, per application, per user. Pick a dimensionality that Matt wants to choose, and we give TIBCO the ability to package and deploy to you without them having to do a lot of the heavy work.
Yeah, and if you think about this, you know, we've talked about this, part of the transformation of TIBCO over the last three and a half years hasn't just been about the new technology, the new products, the new services. It's also been about the transformation of the business model. And so techniques like this that can reduce the complexity of procuring software, of dealing with kind of standard contract terms, really does provide, and I think you've used the term a couple of times, Dave, kind of a frictionless environment. And the thing here that I think is incredibly important is if you're an architect or a developer or you're leading a program, what you want to do is you want to innovate. You don't want restrictions. You don't want procurement telling you what you can and can't buy. You want to build the best system possible. Well, through partnerships like this and through technology that AWS Marketplace is producing, it does provide you that frictionless environment that can allow you, hopefully with TIBCO products, to really reach beyond where you are today.
So we actually have to engineer in my group for both the customer and for the provider. In this case, TIBCO is the provider and the enterprise is the consumer. So we have both a buyer portal and a provider portal, and we have to look at the functionality of the API on one side, the functionality of the API on the other side, and then how we actually handle all the transaction in between. And a good example is enterprise contract, where a number of large institutions, some of whom are in this room, said, as we move to the cloud, we've got thousands of engineers, we want to go fast, and we don't want to take 8 months on a contract. Can you get all the industry to standardize on a contract? So we created a buyer group of 40 major corporations, and those corporations took a year to design a contract, and then we brought a set of software providers to the table, including TIBCO, and we now have over 100 entities joining around a contract methodology to compress the standardization on that software from 8 months down to under 30 days. And that was enterprise contract, which was another initiative that TIBCO had. And then finally, if you're in the governance and if you're a regulated industry, particularly if you're in healthcare or if you're in financial services, a number of companies will be using either ServiceNow or BMC for who gets to use what software for how long. And so in a private catalog that uses the same Dynamo schema as our marketplace, we stand up controls around that software, and then we've recently integrated that into ServiceNow so that your ServiceNow users can actually launch resources on AWS directly out of Service Catalog. So while we're actually planning this talk, Matt and I were talking about which customers were innovating on what dimension, and Change Healthcare popped up as both a TIBCO customer and also as a AWS and AWS Marketplace and Service Catalog customer.
Dave, I thought we were going to go with the story that we just got him off the street.
Yeah, right.
But let's introduce up on stage Aaron Szymanski, the CTO of Change Healthcare.
How are you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Good to see you again.
This is an idea. We're trying to work out how many people we can get up on stage.
Perfect. Perfect. How do I trigger the next slide?
Click forward.
Click one more.
There we are.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, everyone. Aaron Szymanski. I'm the CTO of Change Healthcare. We're the largest technology company in healthcare. And some of the stats are up there, but I'll try to describe briefly what we do. We are a network provider where we provide the providers of healthcare, your physicians, your doctors, your hospitals, with their connection to the insurers. We also supply the insurers their connections to the providers. And as you can see by some of the numbers, it's an immense number of connections that we provide, over 800,000 to the payers, 2,100 to the payers, 800,000 to the providers. We also supply technology on top of that that helps them detect fraud, make sure they're being paid completely. We also provide technology to both of those organizations to work with you, the consumer, the patients, like you and I, of healthcare in the US. the journey that Change Healthcare is on is a complex one. Our technology has come together over decades through acquisitions, some we've built ourselves, and it's time to take it to the cloud. It's time to take it to the modern stack that Dave was speaking about. We have a lot of TIBCO products in our technologies. Spotfire, JasperSoft, BusinessWorks are a few. And actually, we have so many technologies in play at Change Healthcare. I think we totally assumed the slide Dave showed earlier of hundreds. Why are we making the trip? Why are we going to cloud? Why are we changing our footprint? We're doing it because we want to be there with our customers every day on their journeys. The work they're doing, the tasks they're undertaking, and so being able to innovate with them, being able to put new product out in front of them, bring capabilities together is critical to what we're doing, and we have to be faster about it all the time. So moving to the next slide here, a little bit about us, a little bit of what we've been doing with AWS. We've been customers there for, I think, 2-3 years now, maybe a little more. We've been moving more and more of our services. Security's been a big part of it. We're very regulated healthcare industry organization. And our teams are very distributed. So not only do we want to move at speed, but we don't have all of our teams in one building or 2 buildings or a dozen buildings. Our teams are spread throughout the US and a few other countries as well. And so to move quickly, Dave mentioned procurement, legal, accounting, when we're looking at a new software package or vendor. The AWS Marketplace has been a huge boon to us. And so up here are a few of the products that we acquire through the Marketplace. It allows our accounting and procurement and all that to be able to clear something once and then step back and let the developers do what they do. Pick the right product and move forward quickly, right? Grab and go.
And you've actually got teams in multiple cities. Your cloud engineering teams in Seattle.
Yep.
And yet your developers are Boston, Nashville, Vancouver, Emeryville, California, different time zones, different rights. And we've stood up a service catalog portal where in actual fact we have a team portal for each set of engineers, and we publish what software each set of engineers can get as a set of JSON templates into the library, and then each engineering team is provisioned with the appropriate team resources.
Exactly, exactly.
So it gives you control and innovation.
Definitely, yeah, thank you.
And you were using a lot of TIBCO, and in fact, when I met you guys, I met you at the Palo Alto conference to find out that you're both TIBCO. So this is an example of where the common model is a big institution is bringing a lot of vendors onto the cloud. And so Matt, as a result.
I'll take that back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to continue to expand with Dave's team's help. We're actually very pleased to announce 2 things today on the AWS Marketplace. The first is the availability of TIBCO Cloud integration, now with the Scribe integration piece, available on the AWS Marketplace SaaS offer, to get the name officially correct, today. So this means that you can actually go through the Marketplace to buy TCI, which is the SaaS integration service that we provide. And then the second thing, and this is something that we're doing for the first time, but we believe so much in the strength of the relationship with AWS and with the AWS Marketplace, and that is the forthcoming release of the TIBCO Data Science. The cloud release is going to be exclusive to the AWS Marketplace. And again, what happens behind the scenes here, this isn't just a slap it together and put it in. This is close, tight partnerships, engineers working with engineers, business working with business to make these things happen, to provide you with the most frictionless environment possible to create your dreams and your future. Dave, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for all your hard work, and we'll be continuing to work together as we go forward.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, don't worry, we're almost done. So I want to take a little bit of a step back. I guess that's 2 step backs I've taken during this presentation. But I want to kind of cast your mind back to where we were in 2014 and where we are today. So in 2014, what we set out as a company was to really redefine who we are. And we redefined it around really kind of 2 major precepts, analytics and integration. And we had the bones. We had very solid bones. The bones, many of which that you use today on a daily basis. But we set ourselves a vision that we weren't done with analytics and integration. In fact, we wanted to focus the company and double down on those areas. And so in 2015, we kind of came out and we talked about all of the things that we were going to invest in. And we kind of changed up how we thought about the world, moving from integration to interconnect and moving from analytics to augment intelligence. And this was really kind of a statement of intent. And it was a big statement. There was a lot of things that we had to kind of put in place to get it right. Some of which you've heard today with the partnership with AWS, Marketplace, and others. But it was also internally. We needed to bootstrap and create our cloud environment. We needed to put all the right things in place to make that happen. And as we sit here in 2018, both through internal development as well as smart acquisitions, we have really completed that first set of pictures, that first vision. Now, clearly, as you've seen behind me over the last couple of hours, we're not done. And we see that the future is this connected intelligence cloud platform, this ability to create your digital future with these technologies while continuing to focus on innovation that makes sense. And a good example of this, and I'm going to kind of run a video here to kind of tie the possibilities across the broad array of technologies that are in connected intelligence cloud. We'll play the video.
Johnny Greenwood is a customer of Telco X. He wants to buy a new smartphone J7, but found it too expensive. Telco X has been running a campaign for smartphone J7. The marketing manager reviews the campaign in TIBCO Cloud Spotfire, and it is not performing well. She works with a data scientist to improve a propensity model that predicts likely buyers. The machine learning is done in a point-and-click visual workflow with TIBCO Data Science. The new and improved model is deployed as a live scoring service from TIBCO Data Science in the TIBCO Cloud. When Johnny returns to the website, he is shown the offer. The targeted offers made on the Telco X website can be used from any application on the TIBCO Connected Intelligence Cloud. For example, Johnny may contact customer service to replace a charger. The customer service rep uses an app built on TIBCO Cloud Live Apps to handle the call. After replacing the charger, the customer service rep sees a discount offer for the smartphone presented on his Live Apps screen by the scoring service. He then offers this to Johnny. The offer is made possible by making the TIBCO Data Science scoring service available through TIBCO Cloud integration via an app built with TIBCO Flogo. TIBCO Data Science helps you create intelligent services and deploy them wherever they are needed to make informed decisions for customer service, predictive maintenance, risk, fraud, route optimization, and more.
And that is just a small sampling of the power of this platform. And it's not just about the individual components. We're very proud of those individual components, those individual services. But it really is something that TIBCO has pioneered for many years, and that is the ability to create that interconnection, that real-time fabric between all of these components that really brings the power. And so today, if you think about Connected Intelligence Cloud, it's data visualization, it's data management, it's advanced analytics, it's integration and API management, it's messaging and event processing, back to the future, come back again, and then low-code apps and process management. And we're going to continue to build out this Connected Intelligence Cloud to add richness, to promote some of the things you saw in the labs, to full-flow services, but we want to do it also with you. So this is not just a solo activity, this really needs to be a group activity. Now, obviously, one of the big parts of this has been the creation of what we call internally the troposphere, the underlying cloud infrastructure. And this, as you see the screenshot behind you, this is a real live screenshot. It allows a single pane of glass to manage all of your services, regardless of the region that it's in. It's also a great place to try out things like the TIBCO Cloud Starters and many of the other solutions that we're building out using Connected Intelligence Cloud. The success of this platform and its uptake has really been down to this notion that we've talked about before as a group around tailored experiences for different personas, this notion of persona-driven development. And again, this fits in with this notion of humanizing information. It's not just good enough to build powerful engines. What we also need to do is think about the person who's going to use it and adapt those capabilities, the user experience, to be more inclusive, to allow more people to experience the power of these types of technologies. But obviously, as you've seen throughout the day, it's not simply about creating those experiences, but it's also about making sure those experiences are available in the place where you want them. And this, I think, is one of the biggest changes in our industry, in that 20, 30 years ago, you got software where we told you that software was going to live. Today, we'll give it to you where you want. And that is an incredibly important kind of shift and change as an industry. And I think it's driving an amount of innovation that we haven't seen before, because that flexibility, that componentry, almost that Lego block-like approach becomes incredibly powerful as we build out these kind of composite applications. So again, our focus, humanizing information, not digitizing humans. It's about better together, it's persona-driven, it's collaborative, and we've got these new experiences that we're building around tools and technologies like Spotfire. So, as is always, I want to make sure that everyone, really thinks about this. It is about being awesome, but today it's not just enough to be awesome, but it's about build awesome, but let's do it together. Thank you very much.